Hopefully I am live. I think I am live. I'll give it a minute for people to come in. Hello, everybody. Hope you are all doing well this what day is it? Thursday. Thursday evening, afternoon. Hope you're all doing well. Hello, everyone. Hi, Terrance. Hi, Victoria. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to the Introvert Conversation, an IG Live series where we're just going to have real and honest conversations with regards to all the type of experiences that us introverts tend to typically face, and to really discuss on it and share like our own experiences. So today I'm going to be having Terrance Lee of the Introvert Leader platform, and honestly, what he has been doing has definitely been so beneficial to us introverts. Really being able to have that space for us introverts to know, to really grow as leaders and have the tips and tricks that we need to grow into that environment and that space. Honestly, it's amazing, and I'm so glad that I'll be speaking to him today. um so Terrance, if you're available now, then we can, I think I can request for you to join. um cool. So Terrance, if you could request, I think. Okay, yeah, cool. Cool. I think that goes through. Hi, Terrance.
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Good, good. Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Cool, cool. Thank you so much for being here today, for taking the time out to be here. Highly appreciate it. And you know what? Before we kind of get into the conversation, I do want to say congratulations to 1 year of the Introvert Leader platform. And as I was saying before, it's definitely been a space that has really given us introverts insight into how we can be leaders and operate as leaders. So I wanted to congratulate you on that.
Definitely. I appreciate that. I do. It's been amazing. The past year has been great and getting to meet people like yourself, and congrats to you on your platform as well. You know, I continue to see your growth and what you're doing, and I love what you do. So, congrats to you too.
Oh, thank you, thank you. So I will get started, I guess, and I really wanted to start at the part where there's this kind of general idea or general consensus that introverts can't really lead, because it tends to be more associated with people of a more extroverted personality. And for many introverts, they also fall into the idea that they feel like because of that, they cannot step into those type of positions. And I really wanted to ask you if whether, first of all, if there's any truth to that, which I kind of believe, I kind of know what you might say, but even if there's no truth to that, have you ever felt like there was any truth to that on your own journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So, to answer that last question, I would say absolutely yes. I have felt like being an introvert was something that kept me from being a leader. I felt that way for a long time. And it really started from when I was, in middle school, 13, all the way through high school, through college. I thought my introverted personality was something that would keep me from being able to lead teams. I didn't want anything to do with leading. I didn't want anything to do with talking in front of people, like any of that stuff. And I thought that leadership was related to people that talk the most, just to be
Yeah.
honest. I thought that leadership meant you're the loudest person in the room, you talk the most, you have the most to say. And what I've learned is that that's just absolutely not true. And introverts can definitely be leaders, and some of the best leaders I've ever worked with have actually been introverts. And I think there are certain advantages that we have that we don't even think about or don't even realize at times. Because, yes, we will assume sometimes that I have to be the loudest person in the room to be a leader, and that's just not true. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, and to be honest, just to kind of give my own answer as well to that question, because I have also felt like there's certain positions or places that I couldn't, I guess, place myself in because I didn't feel like I measured up to what was generally seen as the type of personality that succeeds in that position. And I remember a particular time where I was trying to rally people behind, I guess, behind something I was trying to do. And it didn't really have the effect that I felt like it should have. And automatically I saw another person who was definitely the opposite of how I was and how I behaved. And they seemed to be very effective. And automatically I just assumed, well, that just means, I can't do this or I'm not in a position to do it. But going off what you said, when I now look back on it, I realized that, you know what, I can, but I really needed to also realize that being a leader is not a personality, it's actually a skill. And
Yes.
the more that realize that, the more I'm like, you know what, I can tap into I can learn the skill, or I can also tap into the things that naturally make me an effective leader. Like you said, like being an introvert, there's so many things that um, we have that can make us effective leaders.
Yeah, and you said something that was so powerful right there. Um, Leadership is not a personality, it's a skill. That is so true. And for a long time, I didn't realize that. I thought that personality and being extroverted and being outspoken meant good leader. And that's just
Yeah.
not the case. I mean, some of the worst leaders I've worked for have been more extroverted, more outgoing.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not to say that extroverts aren't good leaders or introverts aren't or anything, right? Because to your point, it's not about personality. Being a good leader is something that you learn. It's not something that I think anybody, there's the whole debate about are people born leaders or made leaders? And I've always felt that people are made leaders. I don't think that anybody just is born a leader. I think you have to learn the skills and learn what it means. And a lot of times learn through trial and error. I mean, the most
Yeah.
that I've learned about leadership, honestly, have been from when I've made mistakes, when I've gotten
Mm.
things wrong, when I had to learn and pick myself and pick my team up from decisions that I made that didn't go the right way. And,
Yeah.
those are the things about leadership people don't talk about. It sounds glamorous. It sounds good. It sounds great to get, a promotion or the business is going well and all of that. People don't talk about the mistakes and when things are hard, but that's really
Yeah.
when you learn. And so, yeah, that's so powerful what you said. It is not a personality type. It's definitely a skill.
Yeah. And just going off like the fact that there's skills involved, do you think that um what has been the thing that you felt like you had to learn on your journey to leadership? What are the things that that you felt like you had to learn?
Yeah, so I think that for me, with having a more introverted personality, the first thing I had to learn was that it's okay to be myself. I had
Yes.
to learn, going back to what we started with, right, about feeling like, do I have to be an extrovert to be successful, to be a leader? I had to learn that my personality type is okay. In
Yeah.
fact, there are actually advantages of my personality type. There are times where when someone else is quick to speak, I'm quicker to listen. I'm
Yeah.
quicker to observe the room. I'm quicker to, do things like that. And so I had to learn that it's okay to be me. Um, on the flip side, though, I will say that I did have to learn to come out of my box at times, out of my comfort zone. And that at times was tough for me because like I said, I didn't like speaking in front of people. I just didn't want anything to do with it. I never saw myself as the person that could have a presence the way that I
Yeah.
thought I should, right? And so I had to learn that, and a lot of that just came with practice. And I think it's that, so it's not that introverts have to not be introverted to be leaders, or we have to be something that we're not in order to have a presence, or we have to be somebody else. It's just we take the opportunities to step up and get out of our comfort zone. We have to look at those opportunities and look at them as just that. They're not a bad thing, they're actually good for us, you know?
Yeah.
And the more that we do that, the more that we practice, the more that we get comfortable with getting in those types of situations, um, the better it is for us. And then over time, we start to not get as nervous and not feel as, um, like those situations can overtake us. I mean, I was super nervous the first time I did a live. I don't know about you. And
Yes, I
now,
was.
yeah, and like now I feel a lot more comfortable, but that's only
Yeah.
because of practice and repetition, right? So I think that helps.
Yeah. Yeah, and the one thing that I wanted to it's yeah, you're totally right because it just takes practice and sometimes the things that seem scary at first, after a while of doing them, then you just get a lot more comfortable. And I think I think it's so important that people, I guess, give themselves a chance to step into it and develop and grow within the thing that you feel is initially scary. Um, yeah, I think that's really important. One thing that I have learned, or that I've had to, I guess, develop in a way, or would I say develop? I would say that I felt like was okay after reading some parts of your book actually was it's okay to ask questions. And the reason why I felt like it wasn't okay sometimes is because some people in around me and some particular stages that I was in, they would be very quick to get things very quickly. And I felt like I needed to probably ask more questions so that I would be a lot more thorough in what I wanted to produce. And reading your book and the phrase that you gave, which was be a master asker, it was like, yes, this is actually something that is good and that I need to be okay with doing, and not just assume that if I'm presented with something, then I have all the details and I can make decisions just like that. Yeah, what is your take on the asking the questions bit?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, asking questions is so key. It's so
Mm,
key in leadership. Not just in leadership, I'll go as far as saying in life.
yeah,
I think when we make decisions without having all the facts, then
yeah,
it's very tough to get it right. And so I think when we're in situations where we have a tough decision to make and we don't have those facts, we haven't asked the right questions. And the other thing too is that we have our perspectives as people, but
yeah,
someone else is always going to see things a different way, right? Like they're
yeah,
always going to have a perspective that we don't have. They're going to see things some way that we're not thinking of. And so that's just more information that helps us to make the right decision. So I think it's, to think that we know everything, to think that, asking questions is dumb or we don't want to appear like, we don't know it all. Like having that whole mentality really doesn't help us.
yeah,
And it really helps us to just be humble, ask questions, seek out information, and we just end up so much better for it, I think.
yeah. No, that is true. That is true. And with regards to the element of leadership and accessibility. And this is something that I wanted to kind of touch on. And sometimes, especially some introverts can feel like being a leader means that you have to be always accessible and always available. And sometimes for many introverts, they're a lot more reserved and they don't want to be in a position where they always have to be on, and be accessible to people at all times. How do you believe in leaders having boundaries with regards to accessibility? That's the main question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think I've been asked that before. So I'll tell you, definitely. I think boundaries are important. I think they're very important. Um,
Yeah.
because the reality is, as introverts, we get drained. There's this reality of it. Sometimes we're in situations where that social battery or whatever is run out, and we're ready to, do something else. And so I think as leaders, we have to be there for our people, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's okay to have, so like me, for example, with my
Mhm.
schedule, I try to schedule things where I have a certain part of the day that's like, this is the busy time. This is where I'm in meetings. This is where I'm having conversations. This is when things are getting done. And then I try
Yeah.
to schedule, even if it's just 30 minutes, it's like 15, 30 minutes throughout the day where I just don't take calls. I don't take calls. I don't do anything. Like this is just time to recharge, you know.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
for me that's healthy. And for some people they don't need that, but I found that for me I do. So I think for leaders it's very important as introverts that we do set those boundaries. I don't think that it's healthy for us to run ourselves into the ground to
Yeah.
um, force ourselves to always be accessible when
Yeah.
sometimes we need to have that time to ourselves. Because if we don't have the time to ourselves and if we're not in a good headspace, it's not going to be good for the team either that we work with, right? Because we're
Yeah.
not going to be our best selves. So,
That is true. That is true. What is the So for me, like in my own kind of, I guess, my own journey in various aspects of my own path, but when I think about leadership, I think about making hard decisions, and I've had to make, even recently, I've had to make some decisions that I would have probably shied away shied away from, but I've had to. Um, take that position and make decisions, certain decisions that, might not have everyone might not have been happy with. And that is the hardest thing for me, with regards to any element of leadership. What is the hardest thing for you that you have felt like you've had to do as a leader, and also being an introvert as well?
good question. Good question. So, I'll say for me, it's been having tough conversations. Um, the confrontation, the conflict, right? So like, something isn't going right on the team, or someone's not performing, or something
Yeah,
just isn't going right, and having to confront that person and have that tough conversation. I'll admit that I struggled with that for a long
yeah,
time. Um, and I don't even know that that is just an introvert thing because I've met some extroverts that, they don't like that type of confrontation as well.
yeah,
But I think,
true.
I think especially for introverts, right? Like that's just something for me. I would delay the conversation. I would push it off. I would, do
Yes.
all these kind of things. And
Yeah,
what I realize is that that's not helpful for me or that person. Because what actually ends up happening is the more that you delay that, that doesn't give them a chance to course correct, and then they think everything is fine when in
yeah.
reality you need to have that conversation and let them know what's really going on. So that was a struggle with me for a long time, and I'll say that, to be honest, that I continue to work through it. I'm definitely I've made more strides, and my focus now is if I'm thinking something, if I need to say something, I need to go ahead and say it now as opposed
Mm,
to waiting, but yeah,
yeah.
that was a big struggle for me for a long time.
Yeah, I think, yeah, and I think for me as well, it's also not wanting to disappoint people as well, knowing that
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards a decision, and I feel like this is the right way for me to go, but I also don't want to disappoint people. How, yeah, I think how are we able to make make it not come across as, how are we able to deliver such, would I say, news or such uh, things to people, especially when we know that is the right way for us to go at this particular moment. How do we deliver that in a way that is in line with who we are as introverts as well? Because obviously we tend not to be, very harsh or that type of thing. So how do we deliver that in an effective way, but also honoring as well who we are as well?
Yeah, yeah, good question. So, I've heard the analogy of they call it like the compliment sandwich. I've heard it called. So, like, for example, if I have something to say, I'm gonna probably start off with something positive, right?
Mm,
So
yeah.
I don't think it's ever just me personally. I don't like the approach of just going in all negative. It's like,
Mm,
hey, you missed this date. This happened. This is wrong. I don't really like that approach. I like to, um, because, these are people at the end of the day, just like us, right?
mm, yeah.
And it's very important for people to feel valued and to feel
Yes.
heard. So
Yeah.
my approach is I like to start with the positive first. So even if things have been going wrong, if there have been an issue, I like to start with, well, hey, so, just so you know, I recognize, the hard work you've been doing. I
Yeah.
recognize, the hours you've put in, XYZ, and then you deliver. But, just so you know, I have noticed that this has happened, right?
Mm,
And that's where you kind of lay in that. And then, and this is very, very key, I think as a leader, it's important to not just point out what's wrong, but point
yeah.
out what can be done to fix it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, so I've noticed that this has been late, or you were supposed to deliver this last week, it didn't happen. Maybe what you can try next week is do this, right?
Mm,
And then
yeah.
you end it with something positive. So you end with, hey, by the way, like I said, I really noticed what you've been doing. I really appreciate your work. I'm looking forward to us continuing to, improve. So I think that's a good way to do it, because that way it doesn't come off like you're trying to bash the person or even trying to make them
Yeah.
feel any kind of way. But at the same time, it's important to get the point across that there does have to be improvement. So you're able to kind of do
Mm,
a little bit of both. You don't break their spirit, they still feel
mm,
valued, and you get your point across. So that's my approach.
yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great approach. Yeah. And so we've talked about, I guess we've talked about leadership in general, but for some people that might be tuned in here, they might be like, well, as an introvert, I don't want to be a CEO, or I don't want to be a manager, or, you
Yeah.
know, what does this even apply to me? And one thing that and I think I did say this to you, that in your book you mentioned about there was a particular moment that you had to um, write, I believe it was writing to the with regards to an incident that happened at a restaurant, and that being an element of showing leadership even amongst, like, in your friend group.
Right.
And that made me think about a moment in my life where I was experiencing something specifically, and I had to um, develop the courage to actually send an email to a local government official of the area, just with regards to my experience. So what I'm trying to take from this is that we're not only leaders in we can't we don't associate leadership with just being managers or CEOs, but we also associate leadership with even our everyday lives, the among our peers, our families, and all that. So yeah, is that something that you would agree with as well? Like, we can be leaders even in our daily life, daily living, without having to be managers per se.
Absolutely, 100%. And I'm so glad you said that. And that's the reason why when I think about my mission for Introvert Leader, it's not empower introverts to be leaders at work and in business. It's empower
Mm,
introverts to be leaders at work, in business, and in life, you know, because it's not all about climbing a corporate ladder. It's not all about, um, becoming the next big business. I mean, it's about life as well. It's
yeah,
about people that there might be a family reunion, or there might be some family meeting, and they've never had the confidence to speak up and
mm,
say how they feel in that setting. They might
yeah,
be at a church and feel that way. They might be, I mean, there are so many scenarios where I think leadership and all that comes into play. So, it's not all about, yeah, again, pursuit of finance or anything like that. I mean, leadership is
Yeah,
leadership in so many different areas.
yeah. No, that is true. That is true. If anyone does have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll be happy to answer. Um, cool. But yes, in terms of I guess just um your your book and what is the main thing that you want people to get from your book, just with regards to being leaders in general, the one thing that if you were you know to the fellow people who are joining in, like with regards to your book Quiet Voice Fearless Leader, what is the main thing that you want introverts to know with regards to leadership?
Yeah. So, I think the main takeaway, it's a few things, but if I really had to boil it down to one major one, it's that, nothing is wrong with you. Nothing about your introversion is a problem.
Yeah,
And, I really wrote the book thinking about how I felt, the 13-year-old boy that lost his confidence, back in middle school. I thought about that boy and how I felt. And I thought
mm-hmm.
about all the other people out there that probably feel the same way. So this
Mm-hmm.
book is really written for those people. If you don't have a certain confidence, if you've ever doubted yourself, if you've ever felt like leadership is for everyone else, it's not for
Yeah,
me. This book is about empowering and changing the thought process of people that feel like that. I'll also say the book is for extroverts as well, though. I had someone point this out to me. I did a podcast interview with a friend of mine, Jeff, really good interview. And he said that he got a lot out of the book as an extrovert. And that was a great compliment to me because I do have a section where every chapter has a portion called What Introverts Wish Extroverts Knew. And the
yeah,
reason I wrote that is I want extroverts to learn about how introverts work as well. So I think
mm-hmm.
there's something from the book really for both personality types. But
Yeah,
ultimately, the theme of the book is it has a lot of different tips and skills specifically to grow and build as a leader. But the main takeaway is really about being authentic. Love who
yeah,
you are. There's nothing wrong with you. Your introversion is actually a strength, it's not a weakness, and just driving
mm-hmm.
that point home.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and I haven't finished reading it yet, but I so far some of the things in here has really checked me as well as on my own journey, and it has also led me to make a certain decision as well. When I read about specifically about delivering bad news, that was the thing that really, that I really connected with. So I would recommend for people to definitely get your book. But is there any kind of last words or last thing that you'd like to say to fellow introverts that are tuning in right now, or extroverts that are tuning in right now?
Yeah, I just want to say, well, first of all, um, I want to say, I appreciate you having me on. It's been a nice, break from the day. You have a conversation like this. I could talk about this all day, so I just appreciate you. And yeah, I would say for, any introverts that are in the live right now, um, you know, don't um, don't dim your light or
Mm-hmm.
don't feel like you have to be somebody else or do someone else's agenda or what they think is best for your life because of
Yeah.
your introverted nature. You're actually powerful. You actually have a lot of strengths. You have a lot going for you, and so don't ever make anyone make you feel like you're less than.
Yeah.
Is one of the main things I would say. And there's a lot of power in being authentically you. So be
Yeah.
authentically you, love who you are. And then for anyone in the live that's more extroverted, I would say that to really seek out and try to understand, your introverted family members, friends, coworkers, everybody. And I think if we can do that, just as a society, then we'll be in a
Yeah.
much better space where
Mhm.
extroverts aren't looking down on introverts and introverts aren't thinking something's wrong with them. Or if we can just all get to a space of understanding each other and seeking that, then I think we'll be in a better place.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. And just with regards to the question that I guess we had for the live, which is can introverts lead? And I guess the answer is yes. Um, and that we can lead in a way that is more in line with how we operate. And there's nothing wrong with that. And also, there are things that, yes, we do need to learn with regards to leadership skills, but we shouldn't attach leadership to being a personality. It's just a skill that we can learn, and we can use our natural introverted abilities to also be effective in leadership. And yeah, to not feel like we are at a disadvantage when it comes to leadership because we are introverts. But yeah, I think that's a great place to end it. But thank you so much for your time here. I've really enjoyed this conversation. And like I said, to everyone who is on here, I want you to get Quiet Voice, the Fearless Leader. Make sure you go get your copy. It's on Amazon, and I believe that it's the ebook as well is out now as well. So if you're more of a ebook person, then definitely go and get that. But yes, and I should mention that Terrance was actually a guest on the season 1 of the Introverts We Thrive podcast. So if you have not listened to that episode, make sure you go listen to it as well. But yeah, I will leave it there. Thank you so much again, Terrance.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. This was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
No worries. Bye.
All right. Have a good one.
Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys got some really good value from that conversation. As I said, Terrance was on the season 1 of the Introverts We Thrive podcast, so make sure you go tune into that episode. And for season 2 is actually coming up, so these are the type of discussions that we tend to have on the podcast. So season 2 is coming back next week, Friday. So make sure you go over to your favorite podcast platform and subscribe so you do not miss when the new season drops. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys. Yes, thank you so much. Cool. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you tomorrow for the next episode of the mini series, The Introvert Conversation. Bye.